Okay, Fred, what we need to talk about today is water. It's a big thing, even though people take it for granted. So what can you tell me about water? And I really want you to really hone in on alkaline water and reverse osmosis water and fluoride water.
All at once.
No.
Is correct.
Take your favorite one first.
Okay. Well, first, I would say you must start with pure water. And what does that mean? Water, as it drops from the heavens, doesn't have dissolved solids. It has energy from the sky, like an electrical storm up there. So it's highly energized, mostly with harmonic energies, life-supporting energies. It's very oxygenated. Oxygen gives water its taste. And minerals, by the way, that the water has dissolved, give it the aftertaste. So I never buy a water where they've added junk metallic minerals to the water because they have no real benefit to the body. And I want to taste oxygen if I taste anything at all in the water. So you want to start with pure water. And I would rather have pure dead water than dirty dead water. So dirty dead water is what comes out of the taps of 99.9% of the homes now. Here in the United States and Canada, nearly all the water coming out of the tap is in a very negative energy range. You can take any arbitrary scale, but on the bioangstrom scale, from the Anton Bovis, also called the Bovis scale, 6,500 bioangstrom would be considered neutral to the body. Doesn't depress the body's energy, doesn't increase or support the body. But most bottled water is at about 24 to 2,800 bioangstroms now, well below the neutral zone. So as you drink any bottled water, you're bringing your energy level down. And there's no structure to it. We'll be getting into structure here. When you deal with your tap water, it's very dead. It is also generally in the 2,000 to 3,000 bioangstrom scale, less than half of what it needs to be just to be neutral. It has little or no structure, and it's full of filth. Fluorides, sulfates, nitrates, arsenic, aluminum, dead dirt minerals, salts, phosphates, detergents, salts, medical waste. All of these work against our health, and most all of these are in our waters to one degree or another. In certain locations, obviously, some are more concentrated than others. And unless you're using a reverse osmosis combination or distillation, carbon-based filters, whether they're carbon blocks or otherwise, do not, I repeat, do not take this filth out of the water. And that nearly cost my son his life, which drove me into water full time. I'd been dealing with health for a long time, but like so many medical, naturopaths, etc., water was something that, I mean, it's water. Well, yeah, you want it to taste better and you use filters to make it taste better. But to this day, some health providers still take that approach. It's absurd. And then others just listen to whoever's pseudoscience is being thrown at them to justify some technology, and they use no common sense. And for most of these health providers, they're so well trained that if they would just apply the same basic principles they've learned in Guyton's physiology and other aspects of their training in nutrition, like plant-based minerals versus metallic minerals, they would understand that a carbon-based filter that is not taking out the dissolved rocks, which is exactly what's in the water, whatever the water happened to flow through is what's in the water. Now, does that sound like a nutritional source that God would give us? You see, a carrot, unless man has corrupted it, a carrot always has the same basic nutrition, or it's a stunted carrot. And peas, and each you can crave, if we listen to our bodies anymore, you can crave certain things based on what your body needed nutritionally. And plant-based minerals are predigested by plants through photosynthesis, proven to be up to 1 million times smaller than that metallic mineral you'll find in the water that is given the same name, i.e. calcium, fluoride. Oh, wait a minute. You're saying when plants digest fluoride, that fluoride is not harmful? That is correct. Oh, lead. See, if you have plant-based trace minerals and you don't have lead on the label, you don't really have plant-based trace minerals, or they're lying to you. But that lead is non-toxic if it's from plant. Broccoli, the lead levels in broccoli are so high that if you talk to any medical doctor about the lead level that's in that broccoli on the plate in front of him, would he eat it if he knew it had X amount of lead? And he would say absolutely, or she would say absolutely not. But except it's totally not toxic. So these are some of the basics we must understand if I'm going to move forward on any of this. And we haven't even touched on the structure or the harmonic energy. So what we have in life are structure of water. Hexagonal structuring is very, very important, kind of like a snowflake. And unless the water is hexagonally structured, and is what Dr. Carl Baugh of the Creation Evidence Museum said after years of study, the singing nature of water. When it's allowed to flow, it creates vortexes. When it flows around things, it breaks the magnetic field of the earth, which allows it to increase its energies because it's interacting with the far infrared from things like granite, but also just the earth itself and the sun. And all of this is increasing the energy. The vortexes, as the water temperature changes back and forth constantly, every degree of change either way creates more energy. And just a little rabbit trail, when I started in water now almost 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and I can't even remember. That's a decade. I can't remember how long it's been. It's been that long. But I nearly lost my son because I did my homework, and the people and the books that I read lied flat out or misinformed. So that got me really upset. I had to do my own research, my own work, and a lot of it was observational. And that's why I became an observational scientist, not a theoretical. Observational is if you can observe it always, you do this and it always does that, I will accept that even before I understand why or how. I mean, that's it. Now, medical profession, the pharmaceutical industry, they don't recognize observational science. You know, what's worked for thousands of years within the herbal, no, they don't recognize it. So here we are with water, and we have structure. It used to be when water was allowed to flow, it would create its own structure, it would create its own energy, and the EPA, when I started, they had found that man-made chemicals and particularly pesticides had reached every underground aquifer. That meant that these chemicals that in the lab, they said these will never break down. You've got to comprehend that. They said in 100 years, what we've done will never decompose. So we basically started killing ourselves. Then, through observation, they found that when water was allowed to flow, it created such high energy levels and its structuring where it broke the carbon-hydrogen bonds so that you were just left with carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and no more poison. So God is protecting us in spite of ourselves. But what do we do with our water supplies? We store them in these huge tanks above ground, or we store them in reservoirs, and basically we don't allow it to flow, we don't allow it to sing, we don't allow it to create vortexes, and basically it dies. So that's why the water coming into your home is negative energy, full of toxins and poisons. We might as well mention that fluoride is a poison more toxic than lead, only slightly less toxic than arsenic, according to the original Merck index. They've kind of modified how they say that now. Isn't that interesting? But fluoride is so very toxic that the hydrofluosilicic form that is most commonly used now, it's not sodium fluoride. Sodium fluoride was the main ingredient of rat poison. Sodium fluoride is a blood thinner. That is what they used for blood thinner because they used it as a rat poison so the rats would bleed to death when they would bite each other. But this was okay to give to your children. Or wait a minute, oh, it's how the aluminum industry at first and now the superphosphate fertilizer manufacturers dispose of the fluoride, whether it's in the sodium fluoride from the smelters or the hydrofluosilicic acid from the raw washdown of the smokestacks, these huge smokestacks from the phosphate fertilizer companies. These are added to the drinking water or to the water as a means of disposal without having to pay astronomical disposal costs from a super toxic waste. And Oh, we could spend a 2-hour program just on the whole history of the fluoride deception. But you can imagine my son nearly dying from fluoride from the Grand Prairie water filtered through the carbon filter. Carbon block, as a matter of fact, the biggest made, nearly killed my son. And that's what drove me into this full time. So it's rather a very sensitive subject for me, and one that I want to make sure people understand. Fluoride also happens to be one of the most difficult substances to get out of the water once you put it in, because it does attach to calcium, for instance, and calcium is a dissolved solid, and carbon filters do not remove dissolved solids. You must have a membrane or distillation to remove the dissolved solids, and it will immediately start attacking your thyroid and other organs that regulate the hormones and the production of tooth enamel. In fact, all 7 collagen proteins are negatively affected by fluoride, even prenatally. So this is not a nice substance whatsoever. So you want to start with reverse osmosis. Is the most practical, affordable, most easily to maintain, and when you take that distilling, even distilling wastes a lot of water, takes heavy maintenance. You must clean them repeatedly. And I even have a distiller here in the house, but I never use it. So it's got to be practical, something the family will use. And the reverse osmosis technology has progressed to such a degree that it's silly not to get a quality reverse osmosis system today. But distillation will kill even high energy water. So you have absolutely dead, very aggressive, empty water with distillation, but you can bring life back to it. We'll discuss that. Reverse osmosis, if it has energy, harmonic energy or otherwise, and structure going in, it's going to have most of that coming out. But the fact that it isn't there when it's going in, the water coming out is pure dead water now, and usually without structure. And so when you have these people who sell just a carbon filter or granular carbon or carbon block or a KDF carbon, and by the way, you want detail, go to highenergyhealing.com and download at no cost to you, my gift to you, which is Adrenal Exhaustion and Chronic Fatigue, How to Stop the Nightmare. And that adrenal exhaustion book will answer so many questions that you won't find the answers anywhere else, including acid, alkaline, ionized, high pH, or alkali water. It's in there.
High energy what, Fred?
highenergyhealing.com. And there's an entire chapter on water and water filtration and water purification appliances. This is where I made my name with the healthcare profession. I had to investigate everything because I was so mad. I did my homework. I bought the best filter money could buy, the biggest, bestest, and my son nearly died because I was lied to or by omission, not told what it wouldn't do.
Okay.
So what I have in there, you'll know what every single combination does, and most importantly, what it does not do. So you decide. Do it right, do it once, and keep the family and yourselves healthiest. So we start with pure water. Then we must bring structure back. Well, there are a number of ways to do that. You can find out in that book. You can also, add something like this Quanta water. This Quanta water is a water catalyst, the most affordable out there, that has also the highest harmonics, sipped full strength every hour, or now it's gotten so bad with 10,000 satellites, billions of cell phone calls, Wi-Fi, the smart meter, everything is assaulting us, overwhelming our body's electrical system. It's overwhelming us to such a degree that it's shutting down the cells from that parasympathetic chatty to the sympathetic shutdown. I'm waiting to feel safe. Well, when are they turning off those 10,000 satellites? They ain't. When are they turning off the smart meter? They're not. When do these calls coming in from around the world? Oh, wait a minute, Fred, isn't it just my cell phone? No. When I get my call, I get it whether I'm in Hong Kong, Dallas, or California instantly, or Hawaii, which means when I get a call, you get zapped, and vice versa. So think about a bug zapper 24/7 going on in your body that your cells were never designed to handle. And and then the satellites, they're the worst. I mean, they're triangulating us. They're stealing our cell phone calls. We're literally roasting in a microwave oven 24/7 from the time we're conceived now. Oh my gosh, horrendous. Here's what makes it even worse, Dr. Carney. The plants. Are plants living organisms? What did I just describe? All of this is doing to us as a living organism. So all of this is happening to the plants. All of this is destroying the energies and structure in the water that's in any plant or on Earth. And so our life-supporting energy resources, the harmonic resources, are being wiped out. So it's now up to us to protect ourselves as well as restore that. Now, I'm ready to get into, with that as a foundation, I'm ready to get into the acid alkaline ionizing water, or alkali water. Anything over 8 pH is considered alkali. Ideally, 7.5 to as low as 6 pH, very ideal water, if it's pure. Now, understand something that changed over the last 30 years. When I first started testing reverse osmosis water, it generally was around 6.8 to 7.5 pH. Well, it quickly changed to where the reverse osmosis water can be as low as, testing-wise, 5.8 pH to 6.8 pH. Very little is higher than that. Well, the main reason is the only thing left in the reverse osmosis water is the most difficult substance to get out, which is what? Fluoride. Fluoride happens to be extremely acidic. So acidic, it'll eat through in that hydrofluosilicic form that they add directly to your drinking water. That will eat through an inch of asphalt in an hour if it's spilled on the highway. So they have a double tanker truck to transport that toxic waste that they let you and your children drink for the benefit of your teeth, which there's never been a single study that has shown that to be true or effective. You say, well, Fred, how could that be true? That the government would allow it? Are you freaking kidding me? Have you not learned yet? The government is there to protect the interests of the special interests, not you. Anyway, they're the opposing team. But anyway, so now back on track here. So where was I? Okay, so the acid alkaline ionizing water. So we have these ionizers, and so reverse osmosis. The fluoride. Fluoride is very acidic. The only thing left in this pure water are minute amounts of fluoride. But now it's without the buffers. Calcium is a buffer. The other minerals, they're a buffer. So without the buffer, the only thing that shows in the water is this acidic fluoride. But it's in such minute amounts that the minute it hits a tissue in your body, boom, gone. And there's not enough of it to have any adverse effect. But the water still tests acidic. However, it doesn't drive your body acid because there's not enough substance to have an effect on your body's pH. Here's the other thing. There is nothing in nature that alkalizes the body that's alkaline. First of all, you only have amino acids. You don't have a single amino alkaline. The other is all the fruits and vegetables that alkalize the body are acidic. Give me an exception. There isn't one. Even meat, before it's cooked, is acidic, slightly acidic. And all of those, when the body burns them, release energy, and then the body, it leaves an ash that allows the body to alkalize itself. So they're alkalizing in the natural process of the body utilizing the acids and releasing energy. Only acids release energy. If you haven't noticed, we operate on energy, like a combustion engine. So when you cook meat, for instance, it no longer is a good source of that kind of energy. It will not alkalize the body, but it is a much, much, much more utilizable source of protein. So your meat is for an entirely different purpose than your fruits and vegetables and most of your food chain. So we've got that established. So nothing in nature, the most acidic fruit, lemon is one of the most acidic, and it happens to be the most alkalizing of the foods. So my point being made is, when did some brainiac say drinking alkaline water, or as I say, if it's over 8 pH, it's alkali water? When did drinking alkali water alkalize the body? It may be true to a certain extent. It imposes alkalinity onto the body. Now, as a doctor, Dr. Carney, when you impose something on the body that is not the body's own choice, how does the body respond? Is it any different than you and I respond when someone is trying to make us do something we don't want to do because we know there's something over here we should be doing, and we may finally do it, but we do it begrudgingly, and something gets left done over here. So we're driving the body out of balance by forcing alkalinity on the body, and also the body has to be able to go acidic. Like when we get sick, there are times it must go acidic. Now, if you stay acidic, that's when you get sick. But there are times the body uses the alkaline acid condition in the body to regulate its ability to function in the immune system. So when you take that away with something like alkali water, forcing an artificial alkalinity on the body rather than letting the body regulate its alkalinity, we have a problem. The body's out of balance. Lack of balance is the very definition of dis-ease. It's no longer at ease. But let's get to just a little more science. Now, there's an excellent book by, that's my book, Adrenal Exhaustion and Chronic Fatigue. That's the one you can download at absolutely no cost. Okay, but this book, it's amazing. This man I've known for years. This is Roger Bazanis. It's called pH Madness. He wrote the book before he even told me he was writing it. It is a wonderful book. And there's so much in here on pH, but he has a whole thing on acid alkaline, but he particularly talks about alkali water, or he calls it not water.
Not water.
Not water. And he'll go into, how animals don't take to it. And he goes through the whole thing on how many, and right now he has thousands of unsolicited. See, he wrote a book called Diagnostic Face Reading, which was absolutely pioneering.
What was his name?
Roger Bazanis. You would know of him.
I think I've got
You probably have it. You've got every good book out there, and this is one of the best, and the only one on the diagnostic face reading that's worth owning. So he has a following of tens and tens of thousands of people. So when they started using acid alkaline water or alkali water from these acid alkaline machines, and by the way, they called me first when they brought the ANG unit, which was the first unit to come over here. I'm known as the water doctor. So they called me first and they said, Fred, we want you to take this to all the doctors. And I thought, I'm going to be so rich. We're going to fly you out to the West Coast, they said. And I said, great. Now, my first question, though, because my son was nearly died from the wrong information on a filter. What filtration do you use in your acid alkaline machine? And they said, well, we use carbon. I said, great. What else? Just carbon. Well, again, I said, well, carbon doesn't remove fluoride, sulfates, nitrates, arsenic, aluminum, dead minerals, salts, phosphates, detergents, or medical wastes. How are you getting specifically the fluoride out? And they said, we don't know. I said, great. When you do, call me. You can't buy me. But I can get excited about making money, but you can't buy me. Not when it comes to people's health or my family's health. So they called me 6 months later. And they said, we think we're getting the fluoride out. I said, how are you doing that? They said, we don't know. I said, have you tested the before and after? No. Are you kidding me? This is, oh my gosh. So these machines take away, to a certain extent, some of the buffer, because they do make the water somewhat structured for very short term. So it's not, they don't structure it hexagonally for very long, but it does make it more efficient for the fluoride and other poisons that must be left in the water of an acid alkaline ionizer. You're using, what do they call it, electrolysis. So you have to have dirty water to have electrolysis. So you really can't use pure water. Now, I found that I could put reverse osmosis, which had an itty bitty bit of dissolved solids through these machines, and I could still get an effect. And so what they've done is they now have, mineral cartridges that you put on after the reverse osmosis, if you're going to feed it with reverse osmosis to try to do that. Okay, so you could get the fluoride out. Some of them are using fluoride reducing filters. I in all my years in this industry, have never found a single filter that has reduced the fluoride by more than 50%, with one exception, which we have we have this media in our fluoride reducing filter pitcher at ewater.com that will reduce it up to 60%. But that's the only one. The rest, I made cartridges that were literally the size of 4 of my fists, put the water slowly through it, never got the fluoride reduced more than 50%. And so when they put these fluoride reducing cartridges, at best, you're getting 10, 20% reduction, maybe. So I don't know about you, but 80% arsenic, 80% fluoride, 80% any of those poisons, I'm not happy still going into my body. And putting it with water that's a little more efficient, I will give them that. And I told them that years ago with the Ange, and then it was the Ohm, and then it was the Singer, and then it was the, what's the Kangen machine now? All of these, and there were a couple of Harmony unit. There was had the Harmony unit, and what these do with the electrolysis is they blow apart the water molecule. Now, doesn't that sound like nature? Now, I've dealt with chiropractors for many, many years, taught them, and more importantly, was taught by them. They're top practitioners. They'd bring me in as a water expert, and I'd get to listen to their top teaching to their top students for years. And after about 12 years of that, I actually started being able to understand it.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing. Yeah. But here's the thing. When you blow apart a water molecule, it's no longer H2O. It's now OH, which is called oxygen hydroxide. And in this book, you will get more of that science. Oxygen hydroxide is used to clean parts because it is very aggressive. Oh, and it also happens to be an irritant to your tissue. So when you drink this OH water, oxygen hydroxide water, it irritates your immune system and may kick it in so that you have a sore throat. Oh, maybe it'll go away because all of a sudden your immune system got woken up because someone's kicking it and screaming at it. Call this irritating water. Does it sound like drinking water? Oh, let's go even further on this. Let's go to Japan with the Ministry of Health, and they're often quoted as saying they endorse this, this water, and they don't. They use this water sparingly, several small doses for over several days, in place of chemotherapy to see if they can aggravate the immune system enough to kick it in so that it'll go after the cancer, which is kind of what chemotherapy actually does. They just don't tell you that's all they're trying to do. Meanwhile, actual chemotherapy is wiping out every good thing in your body. So does that sound like drinking water? A substitute for chemotherapy? I don't think so. So all of this has come out. But now, let's look at least some of the pluses that you do get some testimonials. Well, I've already described some. And Dr. Mushik John, a tremendous researcher, this man was as genuine as they come. And he said, this, if you drink it after dinner, this will help the peristaltic action in your colon eliminate. So you will increase elimination, which if you get back to, what did I say? It irritates the tissue in your colon, and the colon say, get this out of here. So if that's the way you want to stimulate normal body function, okay, I say change your diet. Okay, so now we have that. So if you're going to drink alkaline acid water, acid alkaline water, or acidic alkaline water, alkali water, do it 4 ounces after dinner. The only time the body, in my testing, has ever said okay. All the rest of the time, it's like, no. Now, a lot of people drink this, and their body reacts adversely to this alkali water, and they're told, oh, that's just a healing crisis. Oh, you're just detoxing. No. What you're doing is reacting just like when you first tried smoking, and your body tried saying, don't do that. I don't like the smoke, but you kept smoking anyway, and eventually said, okay, if this is the only crap you're going to give me, I'm going to go to half speed, and I'm going to find a way to tolerate this smoke, and you now are addicted to the smoking. Well, such as it is with alkali water. So what about all these testimonials that were sent into Roger Bazanis backing up what he found was not water, which is this alkali water, and people were ending up in the ICU wards. Well, my own client from years ago, an Olympic wrestler, I had worked with him, and he had just gotten married, and his new wife said, oh, you got to drink this water. It's just amazing. And people have a habit of calling me after the fact, not before. I never understand that, but that's what they do. Fred, I just bought such and such. What do you think of it? Not the time to call me. But in this case, for 3 days, he drank this water. He ended up in the ICU ward with a grand mal seizure. Now, granted, as a wrestler, he probably took some good hits to the head, but it was the water that triggered it. And this is not an isolated instance. I have several others that I received unsolicited with people who got very sick and had to go to the hospital on this water. But you never hear about those. You hear about the people who are highly motivated monetarily to move these machines. Because when you spend $3 or $4 grand on a machine, you're really motivated to get your money back, aren't you? So if I can just get 4 other suckers to buy this machine. So I'm just saying, marketing will sometimes overshadow truth, and money motivation will overshadow truth as well. So be aware. Once again, know who you're talking to. I could have been, still could, be very, very rich just on that technology alone. If I'd say, the heck with it, if people want to buy this crap, let's do it. I will not let you buy it, not unless you do it after you're educated and know that you're doing the absolute wrong thing for your body. Okay, so I didn't want to step on anyone's toes, but with the alkalizers, you don't. The acid alkaline ionizers, it's a big no from me. Now, if you give your plants that water, it'll kill the plants. Or stunt their growth. If you put it in your fish tank, it'll kill your fish. But miraculously, it's okay for your kids, once again. Where is our common sense? Think about it. And I just go back to, what in an ionizer even comes close to anything that nature does with water? And I'll just say, where's electrolysis in nature? I don't find it. They're blowing it apart. So enough on the acid alkaline water. You want to drink water that is pure, and then bring life back to it. Well, if you're really stuck, for those of you who know how to ask God to bless something, see, that's what he'll do if you ask him. I always ask him to raise its energy to where it brings life to my body, and oddly enough, when I can test that energy, he always does. If you're really stuck, that's one way to do it. If you want to be really sure, you do things like you put a squirt of Quanta water in your glass, or if you've got a bottle of water, put a big squirt of Quanta water in there, and it will structure it, harmonize it. And here's the thing, it'll take it from being able to be absorbed into the cells about 20 to 30% if it's purified tap water or bottled water, to over 95% hydration intracellularly, instantly. That's how important it is to get that water structured and harmonized. Now, what are the harmonics? Harmonics are these highest vibrational frequencies that support life. God has put them out there for us, except we, with those satellites and all the other interferences and our own negative thinking and thoughts, we have depressed these to where they're so low that they virtually cannot support life. And that is a shame. I was just looking here for something else, which is these harmony drops. These little harmony drops right here. These you can travel with in your pocket. No one will question what that is, it's so small. And you can put it in your purse. 1 drop on the back of your hand, and you do this, clears all the stagnant energy out of your organ systems and body. An easy test to conduct if you know the points to do before and after testing, basic muscle response testing, for those of you who know that. For the rest of you, you just put 2 or 3 drops of this in a large glass of water, and it becomes so easy to drink. Those of you who have children, or those of you listening to this, say, well, I don't like drinking water. Once you purify it, or start with any bottled water that's decent, I look for reverse osmosis. You can go with distilled or spring water. But remember, spring water just has all those dead dissolved rocks in it. So look for the label that says reverse osmosis. It also happens to be the least expensive usually. And put 2 or 3 drops of this in that glass, and you can just drink it down. The body just says more, more, more. It makes it very, very easy. And with kids, it makes it easy. Now, for those of you who are wine drinkers, you want to really see what this does in neutralizing free radical activity and all, sip your wine. Put 1 drop of this in your wine glass. Take a sip. You'll get golf ball eyes because it's so smooth The acid bite's gone. You can make a very mediocre glass of wine taste very good. Same with coffee. You can take coffee that has that acidic bite to it, put a drop or two of this in there, it becomes smooth as silk without the acidic bite. And the free radical nature of probably the water that it was made with and all is neutralized to a large extent, so it does much less damage going into your body, so your body can eliminate that. So at this point, do you want to give me any more structure here? Any questions that you, Dr. Carney, yourself have on water? I've only touched on some of the attributes, structure, harmonics. On ewater.com, they certainly can get a lot more information. High energy healing from my book, they get a lot more answers to questions that they simply will not find anywhere else. That's on that highenergyhealing.com. There is no charge on that site for the book. The book's $20 otherwise, but on that particular site, that's my gifting site, I gift that to anyone who's listening to this, and you're welcome to give that to anyone else. It's very easy reading because I wrote it. I wrote it so that I could understand it.
That's good.
Yeah. No one else wrote that book.
Thank goodness.
Okay.
Tell me about, let's go back to the harmonic water.
Yes.
What is the cost of the harmonic water?
My harmonic water full retail is $12.
$12 for how many ounces?
I'm sorry, for a 16-ounce bottle. And 1 ounce in a half gallon will more than structure that water, and it'll bring it from that negative energy all the way up to, I think probably like 90,000 to 150,000 bioangstroms. Very much in the positive range. A fresh fruit or vegetable today, when picked off the vine, is about 30,000 to 40,000 bioangstroms. So 90,000 is very balancing, and that's about what that half ounce or what that ounce in a half gallon of water will produce.
So that would last me, you said 1 ounce per half gallon.
Correct. You'll need about, each person would need about 2 bottles for an entire month of maximum hydration.
2 bottles.
2 bottles. Now, you can get it for a little under $8 from one company that resells this. From the best, they sell it for far less than we sell it to our best customers. But this is the lowest cost water catalyst on the market, and without question does far more than any water catalyst on the market. Most people don't even comprehend what true coherence is. And this is Dr. Yannick's baby, Dr. Paul Yannick Jr., brilliant man with so many degrees, when he passed on last year, and miss him so dearly. But this was years of his research, and he was like a kid in a candy store when he finally nailed the technology. And I now own the technology, and I'm just so grateful that he made this possible, because it's the only answer that I have found to date, other than the Harmony drops, to bring the cell function back once it's dropped down to where is all too common now, 0.5% to 1 or 2% in most people. And I'm finding this worldwide now, but definitely here in the United States and Canada. Now, why is that happening? What I explained before, those 10,000 plus satellites, billions of cell phone calls, all the electronic overwhelm. We all have these cell phones. Now the Fitbits. Why don't people test before and after they wear their Fitbit with a simple muscle test? Your arm will go down like a soggy log once you put that Fitbit on, unless you're wearing something like, the EP2 stress pendant. This will actually protect you, which is easy. You just muscle test, put the Fitbit on. If you're wearing the EP2, you stay strong, which means it's not making scrambled eggs electromagnetically of your cells. So, but people don't think, they don't test. We're being manipulated and buying things we don't need. Healthy people don't need a Fitbit or an iWatch or whatever you want to call them. If there's electrodes going onto your skin, you got to understand that's messing around with your electrical system. And right now, if you're not sleeping well, 9 out of 10 of you watching this right now, I know you're not sleeping well. Statistically, that is accurate. And I know that your digestion is touchy. And I know that you're tired during the day, when at your age, you shouldn't be tired. These are all the symptoms of cellular shutdown. It's not even adrenal fatigue. My book is called Adrenal Exhaustion and Chronic Fatigue, and I point out that 95% of the cases, the adrenals don't even know there's a problem, which is why the doctors who still try to give adrenal support formulas for this exhaustion, they don't work anymore because it has nothing to do with the adrenals. It's the actual cells themselves are going into the sympathetic and they're not feeling safe, so they stay there. They're not dead, they're asleep. So if you, Dr. Carney, have an army of 100 soldiers and they're all asleep except one, and you put food next to them, does it matter? Not if they're asleep. Does it matter if you give them a bunch of armament? Not if they're asleep. So your number one goal is to wake them up. And the best way to wake them up is with either Quanta water or Harmony drops. And all of that is spelled out easily in the instructions on the bottle of the Quanta water. I'll tell you how bad it's gotten in just the last 2 years. On the bottle it says drink 1 sip, a teaspoon, every 2 hours. Now that used to work 3 and 4 years ago, and for the last 8 or 10 years. 2 years ago it wouldn't work. It stopped working. We had to go to once an hour for it to work. And for some people, they're having to sip it every half hour for optimal results. It still costs nothing. And you can, in 2 to 3 months, literally have your life back. In 30 to 45 days, you can go from not sleeping, even if I never work on you or any of my students with the Edna technique that wakes up the cells instantly and gives you sleep that night, in 30 to 45 days, you'll be sleeping because it takes cell function energetically at 30% or higher to have a good restful sleep. Anything lower than that, you're not sleeping well. So we have a real problem because most people now are 0.5% to 2 or 3%. Well, what does that mean, Fred, to the body, to a person? Well, if you had a company, Dr. Carney is a very successful doctor, entrepreneur, and let's say he had 100 employees running his enterprise, and it needed 100 employees. And he's paying 100 employees, and very well, mind you, but only one showed up every day. How's his enterprise doing? That's how most people today are trying to function. Oh, by the way, the dark under the eyes that so many people have, it's hysterical watching, quote, TV stars today. Look how many of them have the puffy and the dark. You can see them trying to hide it with the makeup, and which, by the way, is why they're making so many zombie movies, so that all the movie stars have work. No, I'm kidding. But you look at movies and TV 20 years ago, 30 years ago, besides being much thinner than they are today, because the food's so worthless, we're eating so much more just to try to get the nutrition. Mm-hmm. But they all have this dark under their eyes. They never had that before. Which, by the way, I do have the solution. Dr. Carney will have the solution here very shortly, where anyone who spends 10 to 15 minutes with us, 50% of the dark under their eyes will disappear immediately within 20 to 40 minutes, and the rest, if they follow the few simple steps, 5 simple steps to make it a permanent part of your life, you get rid of most all the rest of that, and you'll continue to sleep and function absolutely fabulously without having to sip the Quanta water every half hour, every hour. That's just for 60 to 90 days. If you do have someone like Dr. Carney work on you, then you would save about 60 days of recovery time. That's what's really nice. And you would sleep, as I say, that night better than you slept in months or years. And so long as you initiate sipping the Quanta water and all, you won't crash back to where you were. If you don't implement the simple steps, you will crash back to where you were. I mean, you're a dynamic organism. What got you there in the first place will get you there again if you don't change what you're doing. You want different results, you got to do things differently. That's that simple. But I will tell you, listen to Dr. Carney, listen to what I'm telling you, and we'll save you thousands of dollars and literally years of frustration. And for some of you, will save your life.
Fred?
Yes, sir.
We talked about the Quanta water. Now let's talk about how long does that Quanta water last. And what I mean by that is I bought some, but I just set it down here and I decided, I didn't want to sip it every 30 minutes or every hour. I just got busy and I kind of forgot about it.
I've had people have this in their closets, in their shelves for 5 years. Still works absolutely the same. It doesn't diminish. It's the most stable, satisfied, its perfect 0 point is 2.76 million bioangstroms. And it's the same as what I found under the ocean in 3 different locations, 70 to 100 feet. It was years ago. I decided one place I think man probably hasn't screwed it up until the big oil spill in the Gulf, but I dove, and the samples I took, they all were 2.7 to 2.8 million bioangstroms. Now, at the time, I had nothing in that range. I had some great energy waters, etc., that did a good job, great job, but none of them in that range. And it was a year later that Dr. Paul Yannick brought Quanta Water to me and said, I finally did it. I finally did it, Fred. After all these years, I got it. And showed it, and we tested it, and I'm like all excited. And then when I tested and found it was 2.76 million bioangstroms, I shared with Doc what I had found, but I had never told him because it didn't seem to make any difference. We didn't have anything in that range. I said, this is exactly what I found under the ocean. Now that's closer to a little over, it's about 2.1 million to 2.3 million under the Gulf Ocean there at this point after we so messed it up. But I'm sure the Earth will recorrect itself eventually, but it's disappointing.
Okay, so
very stable.
So the plastic that it's in,
yeah,
does that have an effect on that water versus a glass bottle?
It's just the opposite. When the water is very satisfied and neutralizes free radical activity, which is what the harmonics do, then theoretically, if any of the chemicals from the plastic got into the water itself, they are immediately neutralized, no free radical activity, therefore no body defenses go up because there will be no negative effect on the body and they will just pass through the body. I'll give you an example. You can take distilled water, which is often sold in those used to be sold in the soft plastic bottles, many of you remember that, and you took a sip and you said, nothing but plastic. If you put a squirt of Quanta Water in that very yucky plastic distilled water and then took a swallow, it tastes fine. You go, well, what happened? Well, obviously, whatever's in that water is still there. But the body's defenses no longer are alarmed because there is no danger to the body anymore. But here's what really happens. First of all, we don't just go with the number on the bottle. We get several suppliers. We put them in an oven at low temperature and just let them sit in that low temperature for a while, and then we sniff them. We do a bottle sniff. And that's, if anything's going to tell you. Remember, I'm very practical that way. So that's one. But number two, when water is very satisfied, distilled water is not. Distilled by Dr. M.T. Morter's own writing and research in his correlative urinalysis, which is still used in some of the chiropractic schools. He has 2.5 pages on water, and one of those is how aggressive distilled water is, how empty it is between its water molecules, and it is looking for something to fill the void, so it leaches things, including plastic, chemicals, and all from the bottles. Whereas reverse osmosis is not that aggressive, but the Quanta Water has no aggressiveness whatsoever. Extraordinarily efficient, but not aggressive. So it makes water structure virtually perfect. It brings the harmonics into a life-supporting range that is rarely, if ever, seen in any of our foods anymore, and maximizes the hydration as well as the performance of the water in all aspects of what water is supposed to do in our lives.
Okay. Now that brought up 2 questions, and I'll talk to you about both of these. First of all, who else sells Quanta Water, or is that Fred's water?
It's Fred's water, and if anyone else is selling it, they're getting it from Fred initially.
Okay. Do I have to have both the harmonic water and the harmony drops, or can I just take one or the other?
If it were one or the other, you'd go with Quanta Water, especially initially, because it will get you up faster than any other means, and I've never found anything close to it. However, harmony drops, unlike Quanta Water, they clear the stagnant energies that we collect every day, all day long, that literally block our organs from functioning efficiently. And for instance, some people do a liver cleanse and find they have tremendous Alzheimer or detox reaction. They feel like they have the flu. Well, that's really stagnant energy blocking the liver from responding to the cleanse. So you're throwing your body further out of balance because you haven't cleared the energetic dam, so to speak, the blockage. One drop. I mean, that's why I call these Fred in a bottle. All right, because I can't be with you every day, but one drop of this clears that stagnant energy, which I can do with my technique. But one drop, it's so mind-boggling that one drop of actual true coherence can clear all that stagnant energy throughout your body, even help relax the body to a certain extent. In fact, as a chiropractor, you know that men who have their ears far forward of their shoulders, they're much more prone to a heart attack, but it's just not a good position. When this is put on the back of their hand and they rub, and you have them walk a few steps and back and then stand, you will find they come back as much as 2 inches to the normal position where you desire. It's really amazing. So the Harmony drops are designed to clear stagnant energies as well as make all water much more hydrating. Quanta water is geared to bring the harmonic function of the cells up, which the Harmony drops help, yes, and maximize hydration of the water as well. So they work incredibly well together. They're two different technologies serving the same need, and that is we have such a shortage of harmonic, life-supporting energy in our environment and in our foods, because it's not in the environment, it never gets in the food, that we have to provide this for our bodies, or we remain in a very susceptible state for illness to manifest in any of many ways, and that is not a good situation to be in. And our children are suffering the most right now. That is a fact.
I agree with that. Now, how do you, I know that you muscle test. I got that.
Basic muscle testing. Now, I've worked with, the top teachers of all the different forms of muscle testing, whether the kinesiology, TBM, body-specific analysis, total body modification, neuroemotional technique, neurooccipital technique, all of these, they brought me in, and I get to watch repeatedly year after year what they were doing. So I have an awareness of those. But I just want accurate answers. And you can take any muscle, and if you ask a yes-no question of the cells, there's an interesting thing about cells. They don't know how to lie. So they will either cry out yes, or they'll cry out no, because they've been given perfect intelligence by God. So they know exactly what's good, what's not good. They also know whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, or whatever. So when you ask the question, if they all say yes, that's an energizing, it's a strengthening, it's a positive response. Well, that strengthens the cell. Cells make up a muscle. So the muscle goes strong. That's all it is. Now, if they cry out no, just as if you're yelling at a little boy and saying no, 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 and that little boy just crumbles up, you see the chest just cave in and all the energy leaves the body. Well, the cell goes weak, therefore the muscle goes weak. That's all basic muscle response testing is. People think it's or they're told it's some woo-woo or something. It's a physiological response that is so incredibly accurate if you learn to get out of the way. Kind of like scripturally it says, be dead to self, be alive in Christ. Well, Christ is truth. So be dead to self, be alive in truth. And all I've been looking for most all my life is truth. I don't care about research. I find most research is bullshit. Excuse me. Terrible word. Didn't I just do that?
Hate it.
Well, you see, when I took my first shower filter in for testing, because it was the best out there. There was nothing even came close, but I wanted it officially tested. And my friend Jerry Tome, who had national testing labs back then, I said, I'd like this tested. He said, well, what results would you like? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, tell us what results you like and we'll gear the test. This is absolutely the truth. This is how research works. What are you looking for? We'll gear the test to get as close to those results as we can. And I told them, I said, I want the water run through at 2.5 gallons a minute, which is about what a shower would be. And I said, and I want it every 100 gallons at that flow. I want it tested, and I want to know what % of decrease in the city water with all the crap and all the variables that you and I can't control. I want to know what's changed. He said, well, we can do much better if we do it in a controlled where we add the contaminants, etc., and the ones that'll be removed. I said, Jerry, just test the filter. So they tested the filter. They came back and they said, Fred, we've never tested a filter like this. This is amazing. However, I mean, they had like 93% reduction. It was ridiculous. And he said, but if you let us do this in the lab, we can, oh gosh. Same thing happened with the air purifier. We the ones brought out the first photocatalytic ionizing air purifiers, and they did the same thing. They couldn't believe the real world testing. We had to test it in a home where the airflow is normal and all this, and they were just blown away with the results. But they said, if you'll let us do this in the lab, we can get the 99.9%. It's like, they don't get it. So, yeah, research has been proven to be used to deceive us until enough bodies pile up where they have to take something off the market, particularly when it comes to drugs and health-related supplies. And so I want observed, consistent results. And that's where I start. And then once I see those, I start gathering we'll call it research, but I start gathering what I call how does it do that? Why is that result so consistent? Because I'm curious like everyone else, but I no longer am curious at all until I see the consistency of results. And that's where the doctors that know what they're doing learned over the years that if Fred says it, you can virtually take it to the bank. You may not understand it because a lot of times I'm saying the opposite when it came to water, that all the rest of the crap, well, of course, you had this book said this, and this book said the exact opposite. And how often in nutrition are we getting the same nonsense? And it comes down to whom do you believe? And that's what you have to do. You find a Dr. Carney who seeks truth. You can believe what he says. And if he ever finds differently, he'll be the first to turn around and tell you, hey, I found I was wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's the way I have to be. But we're not as wrong as so many others out there who, whatever they read, whatever product's being sold at the time, I don't have an interest. If it works better than what I've got and I see it that way, my product is gone, that product is in its place. That's the reputation I've had and I want to continue to have.
Right.
Dr. Carney has that reputation. I've heard people at a very high stature talk about Dr. Carney in the most glowing terms, and he's earned it. He has more color to his hair than I do, but he's still been out there a long time.
Yeah. So, Fred, thank you. The filter. I want to talk to you about the filter shortly. We only have a few minutes left, but I want to talk to you about the filter, the shower filter. Since we're talking about water, and you kind of piqued my interest with that, how long does the filter last?
Most shower filters should be replaced at least every 4 to 6 months. And because they're just carbon or what's called KDF carbon, and the worst are just the KDF, because KDF doesn't take any real chemicals out. It just converts the chlorine back to the chloride. And, but the chlorine byproducts, the triomethanes, they do the most damage to the body, and all the rest of the chemicals and poisons in the body, they go right through those filters. And the carbon only filters, they're taking out almost nothing because water's going through something the size of your fist. Boom. That should be going through something the size of your body. But what we do, and we do this for our whole home systems as well, but the shower filter is where we started. We take what nature does. Nature, what did I say? Far infrared, magnetics, flow dynamics, and vortexing. All of that we have in there. We have the KDF first, we have the carbon, but we have the strong magnetics, we have the far infrared ceramic, we have the flow dynamics in such a way that that water comes out so energizing, and it draws the toxins out of the body. For me, I turned red on my torso for the first 3 days. And I mean, I get excited with response, even when I don't understand it, but you think I'd freak out. Well, no, my body was purging subcutaneous toxins out because it was being neutralized enough to where the body felt safe to purge it out. Because the body tucks away poisons that have fangs and claws. But when it's neutralized through the coherence that our shower filter creates, which makes the water much more structured and much wetter, much more cleansing, and energizing, that you not only get the hair that is so much better, but it also allows the body to truly cleanse at the pore level, skin, becomes like baby skin. You don't get the large pores. A lot of women know what I'm talking about. That'll disappear in 2 or 3 days. And for most women without the skin care, I mean, it just saves a fortune. And my cartridge lasts a year to up to 18 months. But, you know, really, to maximize it, it's a year. And so you're looking at 30 cents a day to take your showers. And I mean, fantastic.
Do I just replace the whole thing, or do I just replace?
No. It literally just unscrews.
Yep.
And the new one just screws on. You don't have a cartridge inside. I decided, why not make the entire thing the cartridge, so that you're not putting a cartridge in a housing, which makes the cartridge itself so much smaller. I wanted to maximize the contact. Now, again, my cartridge is about the size of 2 large fists. So when people say, well, is this taking everything out of the water? Well, first of all, it's not reverse osmosis. It's not distillation, so it's not removing the fluoride. Fortunately, fluoride is not a problem externally. It's not absorbed through the skin. It doesn't vaporize. So that's not a problem in showering or bathing. But the other is, look, you're not putting this through a tank of media the size of your body. You're putting it through 2 fistfuls of carbon and filtering media. But we're structuring it, we're energizing it, we're neutralizing it to whatever extent possible. So you're minimizing your exposure to the greatest extent possible, and certainly to the greatest extent of any practical filter out there for the shower. You're minimizing your exposure to the things that harm your body. And the proof of it is your hair, your skin, and how long it responds to that. And if you do wait too long before you change your filter, your hair and your skin will let you know.
So it's not hard to get those filters. Now, let me ask you this, from a marketing standpoint. If I buy the shower filter, do I get a reminder by email, text, or a call, or what do I get to remind me? Because I'm going to forget about it.
The answer is yes. We have sent out physical notifications for most years. We're now going more towards the emails because they do get through. Digital texts tend to be better. We're working now with those who understand technology. Look, I'm 65 going on 66 soon. And so technology is not my forte. I'm aware of what it can do. I'm just not aware of how to do it. So I hire the people and I team up with those who do. In fact, I'm going to be studying for 9 days with some of the most amazing people in that market to make sure that, yes, you're notified when you should change that filter. And as I say, if we don't remind you, your hair and skin will remind you. But, but we do. We do remind you. I've been doing this for almost 30 years, intensely and full time. This is my passion. This is my love. All aspects of healthcare, of health support, getting the body turned on. But water is that area that I just can't seem to get away from because no one else seems to want to do the whole ball of wax properly. They choose some kind of filter and try to sell the heck out of it. I'm not interested. You ought to buy the appropriate unit for your water and your end results that you desire. And that's what we at ewater.com absolutely major on. Accurate information for the doctors and their patients, and now, of course, the lay people for many years.
Perfect. What I'd like to do is I'm going to end this call, and then after I stop the recording, I'm going to talk to you because I'm going to go ahead and order a filter because I want one. Because skin is the largest organ in the body, and it's important that I take care of that skin, and I'm subjecting that to a shower every day, so I'm absorbing things I don't want to. And I've had a filter before, and then I lost it. It just broke. So now I need to replace it. This is the perfect time to do that.
Perfect time.
So,
and by the way, you inhale.
Yes.
Or absorb as much in a hot shower. And you see, most people pull that curtain shut or close the door and don't realize you're creating a gas chamber.
Yes.
The heat and the volatility. And they think they're relaxing, and really it's just, as I say, just shutting down their function. And so they're getting tired. But some people even sing in that gas chamber.
Well, good for them.
Yeah.
But I'd like to set up another, I'll call you and I'll make sure that we get on another call because I want to expound upon some of this stuff and let people know what it's all about.
Love it. Thank you so much, Dr. Carney.
Thank you, Fred.